Okay, I welcome you all for this session. Okay, so this is kind of one of the hottest topics in the Salesforce world at the moment. So if you go to Twitter, you will see this topic like pretty much everywhere, and we are so happy as the Salesforce developer group to host this event, as this is happening in the entire globe at the moment. So today we are talking about the brand new programming model for Salesforce Lightning, and it's called Lightning Web Component. So I'm Sahan, as mentioned by Jamik. So I hope you enjoyed the event. And before I start the event, I would like to say that we have prepared a quiz out of this knowledge, and as usual, you can win these swags. Not for you, Sanas. Pay attention, and the questions will be based on the technical knowledge you gather throughout the session. Okay, so let's jump into the session. So we are going to introduce a brand new programming model called Lightning Web Components. So this is basically a quick review of this. It is basically running on the modern JavaScript version. It's ES6 Plus, and also supports all the modern web stack functionalities like custom elements, shadow DOM, things like that. And also this is very performance driven, and one of the main reasons they came out with this web component is to enhance the performance, and you will see how the performance has improved. And then also the compatibility, because Salesforce is always concerned about the compatibility, and they are very conscious about it, and then how the existing systems can coexist with this new programming model. So before I start, I see some of the new faces here, and I will take 1 minute to say what is Lightning, because the word Lightning is maybe surprising for you. So the Lightning basically, what you are looking at is basically the highest level abstraction of what Salesforce is at the moment. So we are on a cloud platform, and you can see we have the server, so the normal out of the world scenario, so like database, and you have the application layer, and then you have the client, and you have the view and the controller for the client. So basically Lightning is in this client part, okay, and the server part is basically filled with Apex and stuff like that, the server side technologies. So what we are talking about, the client side, which is the most popular in this age. So before I start the web components, I'll give you a very quick understanding of how the syntax for a Lightning component is. So you can see at the top, we start the component saying Aura component. So it's basically based on the Aura framework, which is the open source framework. So this Aura component can implement different interfaces. So based on the implemented interfaces, you will have different functionalities enabled for your component. Okay, and also this component, even though I haven't mentioned here, this component can be attached to an Apex class also, so that you can get data from the Apex, things like that. And also this can be extended by another component. Okay, so given that all the functionalities, you see Aura attribute. So think of it as a variable. Okay, so it's like a variable for you. So attribute can hold values for you when you take data from say backend. So it can hold values for you, and then you see a special thing called base Lightning component. So the concept of base Lightning component is Salesforce is introducing sort of a encapsulated element, so that when you put this syntax, when the component is rendering in the front end, it will give you the complete styling and everything. You don't have to worry about CSS and stuff. Okay, so it will give you the look just like that. Okay, You just have to give the parameters and the required data. So that's it. So this is basically what we've been doing since 2014, and today we are in 2019. Okay. So I hope now all the newbies, so the guys have an idea. Okay, we are talking about a front-end framework like React, like Angular, things like that. When we have the data, the interaction between the user and the system going to be seamless using this front-end framework. So now that you have an idea about what Lightning is, we will go to a little bit of a history, how JavaScript evolved over the time. So JavaScript first founded in 1995, and then you may remember previously in the browsers they were blocking JavaScript, like don't use JavaScript, it's very dangerous thing. Okay, so that was the initial introduction to JavaScript for us. But then eventually JavaScript started picking up, and around like 2014 and 2015 likewise, it took a massive curve, as you can see here. So pretty much everything you use today, every performance driven robust application is built on JavaScript. Okay, so because JavaScript can give a seamless user experience when it comes to the applications. So here, what you see here, W3C, so the World Wide Web Symposium and the ECMAScript eventually emerged to standardize this JavaScript. And today we have the ECMAScript TC39 committee, and that committee is the committee who decides what is the future of JavaScript. Okay, so the beautiful story about this is now Salesforce is an active part of this ECMAScript 39. That means Salesforce can also contribute, thinking about their platform, what should be done in the standardization in terms of the future developments of ECMAScript or the JavaScript standard. So, and then also day before yesterday, Salesforce tweeted saying that they also started being a part of W3C, the World Web Symposium. So that's a very good news for us. And then, as you can see here, the modern web stack in 2019 looks like that. Today you have ECMAScript version 9 and 9 plus also about come, I guess. And the most stable and the web components mostly use ECMAScript 7. And what we were using on 2014 and what we have been using so far is ECMAScript 6, which was introduced in 2015. Okay, so I'll come to these nice functions later on with the examples, then you will understand it best. Okay, so in 2014, when Lightning first came, this is the web standard. It's a very thin layer. So we had a basic, the browser engine could render things, and we had a set of standard elements like divs, spans or things like that, and then we had events, on change, on click, things like that, and then we had the ECMAScript file. So that's why we write y equals something equals something. Okay, so like pretty much everything is var. Okay, so and then the companies and the outside world needed something more in order to create industrial standard applications on JavaScript. So what they did was they came up to fill the gaps. Okay, so the filling the gaps means the data services and the UI components, and then templating, rendering mechanisms, or things like that. And that is what you know as React, Angular, things. All these things came up to fill this gap in different ways. Okay, so and today what happened was some people think that Angular is a language itself, but it is not. React is a language itself. No, it is not. It just came up to fill this gap. So, but luckily, ECMAScript committee understood these problems, and you can see now when you go see the advertisements for jobs, and you see, okay, we need a React developer, we need an Angular developer, things like that. It's very much framework driven. So you can see, so those are the fragmentations that introduced by that, and if you can find Angular developer, it's hard to find a React developer, things like that. So, so then we have the modern web stack. Okay, so the modern web stack comes up, and then it has all these things built inside the browser, and nobody should know the syntax in how to do this in React and how to do this in Angular. So because everything's supposed to follow the standards, and whatever you write on the standards should support whatever the framework. Okay, so today we have a very thin layer for frameworks and a big fat layer for standards. Okay, so you can see the specialized services, data services, UI components. So those are the things. Okay, as a framework, you should know how I'm going to connect to my application server, how I'm going to get my data. So things like that. That is what a framework should concern about. Not the basic stuff that you would do in every framework. So this is the outside world, and this is our world, Salesforce. So Salesforce also, the Lightning Web Components also use all these standards, and on top of that, they are giving some fascinating things like base Lightning components, like I showed you, and I will show you in a minute, and Lightning data services, which will give you a seamless connection to the back end and the front end, and so that you can get data, and most importantly, the security. As you can see on the very top, the security. So the local service, all these things will be enabled with the web components, nothing to worry about it. Okay. So next, so the benefit of this is like we have more standards and less proprietary. Okay, so if you are a modern React developer, we can easily hire you for a Salesforce job. That's the basic idea. Okay. So things like that. So the common component model. So if you have a question about anything, you don't have to go to the Salesforce Stack Exchange anymore. You can go to the Stack Overflow and put your question there, because the normal JavaScript community should be able to answer your question. Okay. So and also you can easily transfer the skills, and you can easily find the developers. So the better performance. The performance is a very important thing, because when you try to do things on the framework level, the performance will go down. Okay, so maybe you have experience it, but when you have the things happening inside the engine itself, you don't have to worry about it, because it's running as an application for your PC. So you have more resources, more control, and more power in there. Okay. So this is the beautiful thing about, because we all know, like, okay, the web standard is there, okay, so that we can create the web components, and Salesforce can introduce the web components. But the problem is how you are going to coexist in the current ecosystem. So this is the most important thing. And Salesforce developers themselves, they think it's some sort of a big achievement that they did, because now you have the Aura programming model, which we have been working for almost 5 years now. We have created products, we have created production level systems and everything, and now they are introducing the Lightning Web Components. And the beautiful thing about it is, you see on the bottom layer, so the rendering standard elements and events was there previously and will be there for the rest of the JavaScript journey. Okay, and then by then we had the ECMAScript 5, which is variable var thing, and now we have the ECMAScript 7. Okay, so ECMAScript 7, I will tell you a nice thing. Maybe you have seen the keyword let, L-E-T. Okay, so the keyword let is also a sort of a var, 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 the variable declaration. But the only problem is var is only supporting the function scope, whereas the let keyword will support the block scope, which I will show you in a couple of minutes. So things like that. And also we have const. Okay, now we have let, and const replacing the var. And also you can see the building blocks kind of thing here. So that is basically what Lightning Aura framework or the Lightning framework had to fill in by then. Okay, and they did all these things, but still they had a common local service layer, they had a common Lightning data service layer, they had a common base Lightning components. So now what happened is the standards filling up that gap, and now we only have that 3. So this is how they coexist, and what Salesforce has done is, you may think there are 2 different kind of things how they communicate with each other in a one application. So for that, Salesforce has created a public event API. So using that public event API, they can communicate with each other. But today we are not going to go into that depth. So we will plan another session about the advanced topics on Lightning Web Components. So so the summary of this thing is like, okay, now you know, now we have web standards and Lightning Web Components, and they can coexist. So you don't have to worry. If you are going to write a new component tomorrow at your office, if you are using the version 45, then you are okay to create a new Lightning Web Component and work with that. Okay, and this is a special message from Salesforce, not from myself, but they say, like, if you haven't learned Lightning components before, start with Lightning Web Components, because it is most likely going to be the future. Okay, so this is really, really important. And also they say, like, if you are going to start a new project, you may start it with Lightning Web Components. Okay. Okay. Now the time for the demo. So for the demo, I will take you a little bit through the journey of DX also, because without DX you cannot create the web components. So I don't know how many of you have used Salesforce DX before. So for those who doesn't know Salesforce DX, it's basically stands for the developer experience in Salesforce. So pretty much, you know, as developers, we always like to use a CLI. So what they have done is they have created a CLI for Salesforce itself, where we can communicate with the platform through the CLI. Okay. So what you see here is I have run a command called sfdxforce-oglix. So this is basically the current organizations or the server instances I have at the moment. Okay. So you see the D part there. So that is mean the dev hub. So the dev hub is like a log for how many scratch orgs you have. So it maintains the details about scratch orgs or things like that. So we will again arrange another session about the Salesforce DX as well. So bear with me for a moment and log into existing. Okay, so this is a demo org that I created before. Okay, so let's close the rest. Okay. So for this instance, I have already uploaded some data. So I should see some accounts. Like this. So basically, we are uploading data from JSON. So so I have some accounts and contacts. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a simple Lightning component, Lightning Web component, and for an example, I will go to the edit page of this, and so ideally I should be able to create a new component for this page. So heading back to our source code. So this is Visual Studio code that is enabled with, before you start the development, you have to get some extensions. I'm showing you, so here you can see Lightning Web Components. So this is the extension that you have to get before you start developing the Lightning Web Components. And also you have to get the latest CLI update so that the commands for Lightning Web Components supports there. And so I think we are good to go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new Lightning Web Component. Control P, the command palette, and SFDX. You can see create SFDX, and the second one create web component. So you have it there, and then the name you want to give. I say that WC final maybe, or I think it's okay. I'm not that good with the namings anyway. Okay, and then you can say enter. Sorry. CLI sometimes a headache. So now it is creating a new component for me. Okay, so you will see here, this is a very important thing. You can closely look at here. So by creating a Lightning Web Component, it will create you an HTML file, JS file, and the meta file. So previously in the Lightning Components, we had a lot of files getting created. And this one, the HTML file is the template that going to have all the markups, and the test.js is the module. Okay, you remember in that 2019 stack, we had the view or the component, and then this is the module. And the important thing here is this meta. Okay, so by using meta, you can do amazing things in Lightning Web Components, and we'll see how in a moment. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to first put sort of HTML tag, just plain HTML tag, and I'm going to basically I don't know, for somewhat reason why the ID gets stuck. Okay, can I type at least? Yes, finally. Okay. So div, inside the div I'm going to dark. Okay, so now I have a template, nothing else. So I'm going to save it. Okay, and now in Salesforce DX, if you save a file, it doesn't do anything but just save the physical file. So we have to push this. So in order to push, bear with me, I'm going to open the terminal in the IDE itself, and I'm going to push this sfdx force source push -u lwc demo2. So that is my, I think I typed, did I? Yeah, okay. Okay, so whatever the change that we have done here, I'm going to push it into the platform. Okay, now you will see what happened. We in our local folder, we created a new Lightning Web Component, and server knew nothing about it, and the DX pushed what we created just right now. Okay, so all the three files, test.html, test.js, and the meta file is being pushed. So now it is on the platform. Now my requirement is I need to use this in my record page. Okay, so let me open my record, the app builder. So now I should expect my component to appear here. Okay, so my component name is test, and I don't see it under the custom components here. It's just because I have not mentioned how this component should behave. So far you remember that in the second slide I showed you it implements different interfaces. So by implementing those interfaces, the all Aura component could decide, okay, where should I appear. Okay, so for this one they have gone a little bit of a step further, and now with the Lightning Web Components, it's not only that you can decide where I should appear, also you can tell explicitly which objects this component should appear. So if you are going to use in a different object, this component will never exist for you. Okay, so I will show you that fascinating thing. So it's basically fascinating because that's the power of metadata that they are introducing with the Lightning Web Components. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the meta, and I'm going to say it is exposed true. Okay, and then I'm going to say to which versions of Salesforce UI it is exposed to. Okay, so for that I'm going to say the new tags called targets. Okay, and then I'm going to say my target is lightning __ record page. Okay, I hope I typed correctly. Okay, so now I'm going to say, okay, save, and again go to this one, and I have a nice plugin called Nodman. So what Nodman does is like it automatically watch over my source and automatically execute the command for DX. So now as you can see, it has changed. So now when I go to my builder, Hopefully I should see. Maybe it will not come, given that the things happen. Okay, we have it. It's beautiful. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I need to see it somewhere in the side panel, and I'm going to save and activate. And now, okay, just activate for me. Now when I refresh a record page, I should see my useless component, I would say, which is, okay, here you see Salesforce start. Finally, okay. So now you know that, okay, now you are using Salesforce, okay, now we just did, okay, we just made sure that, okay, it is available for record page, and then we exposed it already, and you can see that the metadata version is 45 here, important stuff. And now what I'm going to do is, I'm going to keep, I'm going to make my view a little bit exciting. So what I'm going to do is, I want to see the reactive nature of web component. So the reactive nature of it. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to create a base component. Let's call it a base component. So I'm going to create a lightning card maybe. So as you can see here, when you get the latest extension pack given by the Salesforce for developments, it will give you nice features like this. You don't have to worry about the syntax or stuff like that. It will help you as much as possible to make less errors. So I'm going to create lightning card. Okay, so for the lightning card, we have some attributes. I would say my title will be SL duck, SL duck, and that's it. Maybe I don't want to have much fancy things. So I have created a lightning card, and basically, and also I would like to have a little bit of nice padding for it. I will have like a div class, and I will use an SLDS padding class. Sorry. Okay. So now I have a little bit of a layout there. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to create an input field. Let's be quick. Light. Okay. And for the input field, my type will be text. And for the value, I'm going to create state of a property. Let's call it name maybe. And then I'm going to kind of write a normal HTML sort of event. So it's on change. So I'm going to bind a function so that whatever change happens inside my text box should do something with the value. Maybe. Okay, I'm closing it. So let's see at least I see this or not. Okay, my not button doesn't track for some reason the HTML changes. Maybe it also needs an update. So let's manually push then. And wait for the magic to happen. Okay, I have a problem. Ambiguous attribute, value, on change, handle change. Okay, the reason I'm getting this problem is I have mentioned about about a function that I have not added on my JavaScript. Okay, so now this is the module for this particular component, and you can see here it imports the Lightning element so that I can use all the base components in Lightning, and it imports from the LWC namespace, and then what it does is it exports this module. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to write the things that I want. First, I'm going to create a decorator, which is attract. Okay, so you may see that right after I just type attract, it automatically import track. So these things they do with the CLI, and this is the one of the three decorators that Salesforce introduced with the Lightning Web Components. So at wire is the next decorator, and at API is the other decorator. Okay, so the decorators in the JavaScript it's specially introduced first time. So what they do is attract and at API is like access equals to public and access is equals to private. Okay, so at API is the public access modifier or the decorator, and attract is the private one. And both of these decorators will give you a reactive nature to any property. So whatever the properties you have inside this class, it will make it reactive, so that whatever change happens to that particular property will re-render the DOM. Okay. So now quickly we will create my property, track name, and then what I'm going to do is change. And then I pass the event to that. And this, what I'm going to do is, I'm going to make whatever the value you enter to this property. Okay, so I think it's very straightforward and it's clear enough. So I'm going to remove these two for the moment. Okay, so now quickly we'll save this. Okay, as I told you before, now my Node 1 works finally. So I think okay, what's the problem now? If you want to know it. Okay, I made a small mistake in my HTML file. Here's my cursor. So I added it as a property, which it is not. Okay, and value also. So this is basically where I'm going with my existing experience of writing Lightning components. So when we write Lightning components, we always use the double quotation, but in the web components, we don't use that. And now I'm going to restart. Oh, beautiful. Okay. Now we have everything in place. What I'm going to do is I'm going to refresh. The component, the card name I added was, okay, it didn't get refreshed. Okay, finally. Now we have our component with an input field. Okay, so quickly I'm going to add another field. Let's say paragraph tag, and I'm going to say name is whatever the property, whatever the name that you are typing. Oh, sorry, I have to close the tag. Okay, and save. Okay, let's push. When you get used to this using DX and stuff, believe me, your development experience is going to be completely different. Given that you can also face unexpected situations. And okay, so now you see my name is Spot. So here you can see the reactive nature and how performance driven it is. Okay, so now imagine you are at the same time you are capturing user input, at the same time you are processing that input, and then at the same time you are putting it into a property, at the same time you are showing it on a DOM. Okay, so it is quite powerful, and I will. Okay, now maybe you are thinking that okay, I just entered something and then I just assigned to a property and it didn't do anything to my property. So here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to what I'm going to do, I will do something like this. I will create a new variable called let name equals this complete part, and I want this name to be you remember this task? Let's check whether it's correct or not. Okay, starting. Okay. To be sure, I'm just refreshing twice. Ah, we were not correct. I think the color got changed. Okay, now we are correct. You remember the syntax, right? Okay. Oh, right. Now look, now I'm not, so I'm not typing in full scav. What it does is, it actively binds the same, because we have the same property in both other places. So I'm not typing any caps locks, but it shows caps lock in the both other places. Okay. So that because it binds the both other things like the name and this one. So to avoid this, maybe I can use another property and assign it to that, and then put it into the new one, things like that. So what I wanted to show you is like how performance driven this particular programming model is. And now quickly, so these are very primary stuff. So what I want to do now is I have another component here. So it has this search the input field. When I type something, so for an example, now I am in this edge communication. So let's see according to my data. Okay, I have this account with some contacts here. You can see here, right? So when I type in this search box, it query my database, so it do a server run and query for the data, and then it shows my contact. So it's basically, if I type AU, I don't have any contacts with AU because these are the 3 contacts that I have. So I will type Anu, so Anup Gupta. Okay. So now think, you remember in the Lightning components, we have to capture this UI, and then we have to get our Apex method and then do a callback or promise to get the data, right? So now without any of those things, using the wire service that I will show you in a couple of moments, we are just querying the database so quickly and so robustly. So to show this, I will show you another amazing thing that they introduce when it comes to the performance. What I'm going to do is, this is our network tab in developer tools. I'm going to type, okay, so now you can see that I just cleared and then it did a server run. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to clear this. You remember that I got the name Anup again, Anup once, right? So I'm going to type Anup again. So now you see the data, but you don't see the server, right? Isn't it beautiful? So what they are doing is they are maintaining a cache in the client itself, so that you don't have to go to the server all the time. So it's very robust, and as you can see here, so if I type something else which I didn't search before, then it will identify, okay, maybe I need to go to the server and get the data from. Okay, so as you can see here, and based on our network speed, it takes around how much? Couple hundred of milliseconds. But if we had a fiber connection or something, it's like 100 milliseconds or something like that. Okay. So I will show you quickly the code for this. So if I open up that component, I will first show you the HTML. Okay. So now you may have, as a developer, all the questions. Okay, how I'm going to do the if conditioning in the front end, how I'm going to do when I have a data set, how I'm going to iterate the data set. So all these problems you will, if you look at the syntax, you can get answers. So here you can see that I have my template and the lightning card. So and another good thing is, here you can see when I hover above the lightning card, you get a link to its specification. Okay, if I click on the link, it will directly go to the specifications, and you don't have to worry. I am a big fan of this feature because I never keep syntax in mind, because you just witnessed it, because the two uppercase function also I didn't remember, right? Because I don't remember syntax, I don't care the syntax, I don't want to remember. So here you can see all the related things to that particular component, and also you can play with it also. Okay, so it's a great way to learn. So I will go back to my IDE, and then here this is my lightning input, which is the input field, and then I'm going to I'm just binding a property like first name, and here another template would check whether I have the data, okay, for the property of contacts, and then when I have the data, it will create a for each loop, and then you have when it comes to the for each loop, you have the for each, and this is the item that you are going to iterate, and then you have another item, it's called for index. Okay, so that is the index value of your iteration. And then this is an important thing. Okay, so if you are doing an iteration, you should have a unique ID to every element. Okay, so that's why we have put the key and contact ID as it is. Now we'll go to the module for this particular one and see what available there. So here first we are importing the lightning element, just I mentioned before, and the track, the private reactive decorator, and API, the public reactive decorator, and the wire, the service that is handling the server calls for us when it comes to web components. And then you see another import, it's called at Salesforce Apex, and this is our class name. Contact controller is our class name. And inside that class name, we are accessing the find contacts method. Okay, so the find contacts method will return its data set, and what we are going to do is we are going to call the wire, and then wire function will accept the function, and then whatever the parameters that function would expect. So in this case, I am only getting the contacts for that particular account. Okay, so the next nice question is how I know which account I am in. So in Lightning Components, we had the interface called force hash record ID. Okay, so in this one, there is nothing like that. It just, if you create a public reactive property with a record ID name, it will automatically bind your existing record ID to the property. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, so this is, you may see the syntax for $sign is like a dynamic or changing property. So I'm sending account ID and the search key like this, search key taken from this handle on change event and bind like this. And I have another property called, a private property called contacts, which will hold the result sent by this wire. Okay, so I think it's clear enough. And if I go to the class, that is also kind of important. It introduced a new thing called cacheable true. Okay, so this is the one which does the magic of caching your results on the client. Okay, so with this annotation or enable cacheable true, it will enable the functionality for caching at the front end. So basically, that's it about that functionality on that component. So as you can see here, you can have any number of templates, and there's another element called slots. So that is basically coming with the web component standards. So if we go back to our component, so I think the demo, that's a demo that I wanted to show you. And if you want to investigate more, let me just open up my presentation. Okay, so we have a trail mix to make sure that you learn more about it, and also thank you so much, and I think we can do the quiz now.